3 words. That is all it took to shatter 29 years of loyalty, sacrifice, and financial martyrdom. You are too expensive. Those words didn't come from a boss firing me or a landlord evicting me. They came from my mother, the same woman whose mortgage was paid 3 times last year by my savings. The same woman who sat across from me at Thanksgiving tables while I quietly transferred cash into her account under the table so my father wouldn't feel ashamed. Too expensive. If you have ever felt like the black sheep of your family, simply because you were the only one responsible enough to hold the flock together, you need to listen to this story. And if you've ever had to buy your own seat at the family table, hit that subscribe button right now, because we are about to dismantle the toxic logic of entitlement. My name is Rachel. I'm 29. I work in project management for an energy firm in Houston, and for the last decade, I have been the unofficial, unacknowledged insurance policy for a family that lived like kings on a pauper's budget. To understand the absolute insanity of what happened at the airport the moment that broke me, you have to understand the ecosystem I lived in. In my family, money was never a finite resource. It was an emotional concept. My parents lived on the edge of disaster constantly. My dad had heart issues that forced an early retirement, which I sympathized with deeply. But my mom, a receptionist, and my older brother, Matt, treated financial discipline like it was an optional hobby. Matt is the golden child. He has the wife, the 2 beautiful kids, the house in the suburbs, and the crushing debt to match. But in my mother's eyes, Matt was settled. I was just Rachel, the single one, the one with no kids, no real responsibilities, and therefore no excuse not to help. The dynamic was subtle at first. A text here. Rachel, electric is about to be cut. Can you spot us $200? Of like, people would know me as Lisa, La Lisa, like, just help him out. Just this once became a weekly ritual. I stopped buying clothes. I drove a sedan with a dented bumper I couldn't afford to fix. I meal prepped rice and beans while scrolling through Instagram, seeing my brother Matt at steakhouses with his wife, Brittany. I convinced myself this was duty. This was love. You have family. That's the rule, right? But rules only work if everyone follows them. The catalyst for the explosion happened on a Tuesday. A casual, nothing phone call. I had been looking at my finances, realizing I hadn't taken a vacation in 4 years. Not a weekend trip, not a day off, nothing. I had a little bit of a surplus coming in, and I thought, why not us? Why not fix the family stress with a trip? I called my mom. I pitched it softly. Hey Mom, I was thinking, maybe we could all go somewhere. Florida? A beach? I can chip in for the housing. I expected hesitation. I expected, let me check the budget. What I got was a sigh so heavy it sounded rehearsed. Rachel, honey, look, we're broke. We literally cannot afford a vacation this year. The medical bills are piling up. The house needs repairs. We just can't. Then, from the background, I heard Matt's voice. He must have been over for dinner. He let out that distinct, sharp laugh of his. The one that sounds friendly but cuts deep. Yeah, Reg, unless you're paying for the whole thing, keep dreaming. You're too expensive to bring along anyway. My mom didn't correct him. She just added, he's joking, but we really are drowning, honey. Maybe next year. I felt that familiar cold plunge in my stomach. The guilt. I had been selfish to even ask. Of course they were struggling. I had been sending them money for utilities for months. How could I expect them to afford a beach trip? I apologized. I literally apologized for wanting to spend time with them. I hung up feeling like a brat. So I pivoted. I decided to do a poverty vacation for myself. I booked a solo trip to New York City, not the Sex and the City version of New York, the sleeping on a friend's couch in Queens and eating dollar slices version. I used credit card points for the flights. I set a strict budget of $50 a day. It was pathetic, honestly, but it was something. I told myself it was enough. I told myself I was the strong one, the independent one. I didn't need the family vacation. 2 weeks later, I stood in the check-in line at Bush Intercontinental Airport. It was one of those chaotic travel mornings. The economy line was a snake of frustrated people, crying babies and broken kiosks. I was clutching my economy ticket group 5 boarding, middle seat, right by the bathroom. I was wearing my old college hoodie, mentally calculating if I could afford a coffee once I got through security. I put my headphones on, trying to drown out the noise, when a sound pierced through my noise cancellation. It was that laugh. Matt's laugh. The logical part of my brain said, impossible. They're broke. They're at home, probably stressing over the electric bill I just helped pay. But the instinctual part of my brain, the part that had been trained to listen for their distress signals, made me turn around. And there they were. They weren't in the economy line. They weren't fighting with the self-serve kiosk. They were standing on the plush red carpet of the first-class Farati check-in. Time seemed to slow down. You know that feeling in a movie where the camera zooms in and the background blurs? That was my life in that moment. My mother was wearing a brand new cream-colored linen suit. Not cheap. She was leaning against a set of matching hard-shell spinner luggage, brand new. Tags still glinting under the fluorescent lights. She held the venti Starbucks cup, laughing at something the concierge was saying. Next to her was Matt, the brother who was drowning in debt. He was wearing designer sunglasses indoors, looking like he owned the terminal. His wife, Brittany, was wrangling the kids, Ava and Liam. But even the kids looked like they had been styled for a magazine shoot. And then I saw it. The luggage tags. Bright neon Disney tags. And the boarding passes in Matt's hand. I have 20/20 vision. And the bold letters MCO Orlando. And the dark Furious Clyde's header were unmistakable. They were going to Disney World, and they were flying first class, 2 weeks. It had been 14 days since my mother told me, "We're broke. We can't afford you." I stood there, frozen. My feet felt like they were encased in concrete. 1,000 excuses raced through my mind, trying to protect me from the truth. Maybe a rich relative died and left them money? No, we don't have rich relatives. Maybe they won a contest. Then I heard Ava, my niece, screech with joy. "Grandma, are we really sitting in the big seats with the TV?" My mother bent down, smoothed Ava's hair, and beamed. "Yes, baby. We're going in style. We deserve this treat, don't we? We deserve this." The words hit me like a physical slap. My mother, who had cried to me about the gas bill, who had guilt-tripped me into covering her pharmacy copays, was standing there telling a 6-year-old that they deserved a $5,000 vacation. A vacation I wasn't invited to. And then the final knife twist. Matt looked up. He scanned the crowd, checking out who was watching them, soaking in the attention of being the rich family. His eyes swept over the economy line. For a split second, his gaze locked onto mine. I was standing maybe 40 feet away, dressed in my ragged hoodie, clutching my economy ticket. He didn't wave. He didn't look shocked. He didn't rush over to explain. He just looked. Annoyed. He quickly turned his back to me, tapped my mother on the shoulder, and whispered something. My mother stiffened. She didn't turn around. She adjusted her grip on her suitcase and ushered the kids forward, faster now. They were running away. They were pretending I didn't exist. I could have made a scene. I could have marched over there, crossed the velvet rope, and screamed, "I thought you were broke." I could have demanded to know why my money, the money I saved by eating ramen and skipping life, was funding their first-class champagne. But I didn't. I felt something inside me snap. It wasn't a loud snap. It was a quiet, permanent fracture. It was the sound of a door locking that would never be opened again. I turned around, faced the front of the economy line, and stood there. Tears were streaming down my face. hot and silent. I boarded my flight. I sat in my middle seat, squeezed between a man who smelled like old cheese and a teenager kicking my chair. And for 3 hours I stared at the seat back in front of me, replaying every transaction, every guilt trip, every just this once of the last 10 years. I realized I wasn't a daughter to them. I wasn't a sister. I was a utility. I was an appliance. You don't take the toaster to Disney World. You leave it on the counter until you need it again. If you are listening to this and realizing that you are the toaster in your family, I need you to comment not anymore below, because that plane ride was the funeral for the old Rachel. The Rachel who landed in New York was someone else entirely. I spent my week in New York in a daze. I walked through Central Park. I saw the sights, but a cold rage was building in my chest. I didn't call them. I didn't text them. I saw their posts, though. Oh, did I see them? Brittany posted photos of the kids in front of the castle. Matt posted a selfie with a $200 steak dinner captioned, "Living the good life." My mother posted a sunset photo from the balcony of what was clearly a deluxe resort suite captioned, "Blessed to have family time." Family time. Without the family member who paid the electric bill so the lights would be on when they got back. I didn't block them. Not yet. I wanted the receipts. I screenshotted everything. Every meal. Every souvenir. Every first-class flex. I built a folder on my phone named The End. When I flew back to Houston, the rage had crystallized into a plan. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to fight. I was simply going to stop. The test came sooner than I expected. I had been back in my apartment for exactly 3 hours. My suitcase was still unpacked. The humidity of Houston was creeping through the windows. My phone lit up. Mom. Usually, seeing that name triggered a reflex. Pick up, see what's wrong, fix it. I let it ring. It rang again immediately. Then a text. "Rachel, are you home? Call me." Then a text from Matt. "Pick up the phone." I poured myself a glass of wine, a cheap bottle, because I was still on my poverty budget, and sat on my couch. I took a deep breath. I pressed the green button. "Hello?" I kept my voice flat, dead. "Rachel." My mom's voice was frantic, breathless. But it wasn't the happy voice from the airport. It was the crisis voice. The performance was starting. Oh, thank God we've had such a disaster. Getting back from our week. It's just been chaos. She carefully avoided saying vacation. She avoided saying Disney. "What's wrong?" I asked. "It's the mortgage," she said, her voice trembling. "The bank sent a notice while we were away. They're saying we're 3 months behind. They're threatening foreclosure proceedings if we don't pay $4,500 by Friday. And your father, the stress is going to kill him, Rachel. You know his heart." There it was. The weaponization of my father's health. The ultimate trump card. "And Matt?" I asked. "Can't Matt help?" She let out a sharp, dismissive noise. "You know Matt has his own family expenses. The kids, the house. He's stretched thin. We're broke, Rachel. We literally have nothing right now. Please, we just need to get over this hump, just this once." I took a sip of wine. It tasted sour, but the words I was about to say tasted sweet. "Mom," I said, "I saw you." Silence. Dead silence. The kind of silence that happens when the air gets sucked out of a room. "What?" She whispered. "I saw you," I repeated, enunciating every syllable. "At Bush Intercontinental, Terminal C. 2 weeks ago. I saw the linen suit. I saw the new luggage. I saw the first-class tickets. I saw the Disney tags. I heard her breath hitch. She started to stammer. "Rachel, you must be mistaken." I saw Matt." I cut her off. "I saw him look me in the eye and turn his back. because he didn't want to explain why the broke family was flying first class while I was standing in line for economy. I saw the Instagram posts, Mom. The steak dinners, the deluxe resort, the VIP tours. Rachel, listen. She scrambled, her voice pitching up into hysteria. That was a gift. It was points. Matt found a deal. We had to go for the kids. They've had such a hard year. Stop, I said. Just stop lying. You spent thousands of dollars. You burned through cash you didn't have. Assuming that when you got back to reality, I would be here to clean up the mess. You assumed that when the mortgage notice came, Rachel, the ATM would open up for business. How can you be so selfish? She snapped. The victim mask fell off instantly, replaced by anger. You don't have kids. You don't know what it's like. We just wanted 1 week of happiness. Are you really going to hold that against us? Are you going to let your parents lose their home because you're jealous? Jealous, I laughed. It was a dark, dry sound. I'm not jealous, Mom. I'm done. I'm not paying the $40,500. I'm not paying the electric bill next month. I'm not sending Matt gas money. You can't do that, she hissed. We're your family. If I was family, I said, I would have been on that plane. Or, at the very least, you wouldn't have looked me in the eye and told me I was too expensive to love. Rachel, your father. My father should ask his wife why she spent the mortgage money on a mouse, I said. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. But I didn't feel guilty. For the first time in my life, I felt light. But if I thought that was the end of it, I was naive. Because when you cut off a parasite, it doesn't just fall away. It fights back. Within 30 seconds, my phone began to vibrate. It wasn't just a call. It was an assault. Matt, Brittany, my mom again. The text messages started rolling in like a ticker tape of abuse. Matt, you ungrateful batch. Pick up. Brittany, I can't believe you would upset your mother like this. After everything they did for you. Mom, please, Rachel. We can talk about this. Don't punish Dad. I stared at the screen. This is the moment most people crack. This is the moment where the training kicks in, where the fear of being bad overrides the need to be free. But I had the image of Matt's back turning on me at the airport burned into my retinas. I put the phone on Do Not Disturb. I walked into my bedroom and I slept for 12 hours straight. When I woke up, the war had truly begun. And let me tell you, what happened next wasn't just a family dispute. It was a slow-motion car crash that they were driving, and they were screaming at me to jump in front of the vehicle to stop it. But why stems to know me? If you want to know how the golden child crumbles when the gold runs out, and exactly how much a first-class lifestyle costs when the bill finally comes due, keep listening. Because part 2 is where the consequences arrive. And consequences, they don't fly economy. The silence of my apartment that next morning was heavy, but it wasn't empty. It was filled with the vibrating ghost of my phone. I had 63 missed calls. 63. Most people think that when you set a boundary, the hard part is over. You say no and the world adjusts. That is a lie. When you say no to people who have built their entire survival strategy around your yes, they don't just get mad. They go nuclear. Psychologists call it an extinction burst. It's like a toddler screaming louder when they realize the crying isn't working anymore. My family was screaming. I finally picked up the phone when Matt called from a different number, his work line. I knew I had to face him eventually. Are you happy? He didn't even say hello. His voice was a low growl. I slept great, actually, I said, keeping my voice steady, channeling every ounce of corporate project manager energy I had. How are you, Matt? Don't play games with me, Rachel. Mom is a wreck. She's been crying all night. Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. You need to wire the money. Today. No, excuse me. No, I repeated. I told Mom, and I'm telling you, the Bank of Rachel is closed. Permanently. You guys had a great time in Orlando, right? First class? That's an expensive trip. If you had $5,000 for Mickey Mouse, surely you have $5,000 for the mortgage. That is none of your business, he shouted. The composure cracked. You don't understand how finance works. That was leverage. We put it on cards expecting bonuses. We need bridge capital. Bridge capital. I almost laughed. Matt, you're not a hedge fund. You're a suburban dad with a spending problem. You spent the mortgage money on a vacation to impress people on Instagram. Now you want me to pay for the house I don't live in, the house I wasn't welcome to visit because I was too expensive. You're twisting everything. He yelled, we didn't invite you because it was a family trip for the kids. You would have just moped around and made it about yourself. You're miserable, Rachel. That's why you're alone. That's why you have money, because you have no life. That one stung. He knew exactly where to hit. He was weaponizing my solitude, the solitude I sacrificed to have, because I was too busy working to support them. I have money, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper, because I don't buy first-class tickets when I'm broke. And I'm alone, Matt, because I spent my 20s parenting my own parents, while you played pretend. But you're right about one thing. I do have money, and for the first time in my life, I'm going to keep it. If the house gets foreclosed on, Matt said, his voice turning icy, it is entirely your fault. You are choosing to make that homeless. No, Matt, I said. You chose that when you booked the flight. You're the golden child. Time to start glistening. I hung up, and then I did something I should have done years ago. I blocked them. All of them. Mom, Dad, Matt, Brittany, even the landline. The next 3 months were a masterclass in watching a train wreck from a safe distance. Because I lived in the same city, I couldn't escape the fallout entirely. Information leaked through to me via cousins and family friends. It started as whispers, then became a roar. First, it was the social media campaign. Brittany started posting vague, passive-aggressive quotes on Facebook, backgrounds of stormy skies with text like, hard times reveal true friends, and blood doesn't make you family, loyalty does. I saw mutual friends liking the posts, commenting, stay strong, mama, checking in on them. I wanted to scream. I want to know me. People who know me. People less la Lisa like a real me. What I didn't. I let them paint me as the villain. I knew the truth and my bank account was reflecting it. For the first time in 10 years, my savings account was growing. I wasn't transferring $500 here, $200 there. I bought new clothes. I got my car bumper fixed. I started sleeping through the night without waking up in a panic about my dad's heart medication costs. But while I was rising, they were plummeting. The bridge capital Matt talked about didn't exist. It was a delusion. The reality was that my parents were drowning in credit card debt, and Matt was leveraged to his eyeballs to maintain the image of success. About 6 weeks after the no, I got a call from my Aunt Sarah. Sarah was the neutral party in the family, the one who usually stayed out of drama. Rachel, she said, and she sounded tired. I know you're not talking to them, and I respect that, but you should know, the house is gone. I froze in my kitchen. What? They couldn't make the payment, Sarah said. The bank didn't wait. They were already so far behind before the trip, the foreclosure notice is official. They have 30 days to vacate. I felt a wave of grief. That was my childhood home. The marks of my height were on the door frame. My room, with the glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, was in that house. Where will they go? I asked. They're moving into a 2-bedroom apartment on the south side, Sarah said. It's a downgrade. A big one. And Rachel, Matt is in trouble too. What kind of trouble? His car was repossessed last Tuesday. I closed my eyes. The SUV, the massive leather interior tank that he drove to tailgate parties. Repossessed. They are furious at you, Sarah warned. They are telling everyone that you abandoned them, that you're hoarding money while your father suffers. It's ugly, Rachel. I know, I said. But, Aunt Sarah, did they tell you about Disney? She paused. They said they went to visit a sick relative in Florida. I let out a bitter laugh. They went to Disney World, Sarah. First class. Stayed at the Grand Floridian. That's where the mortgage money went. I heard Sarah inhale sharply. You're kidding. I have the photos, I said. I'll send them to you. That was the turning point for the extended family. Once the truth came out that the foreclosure wasn't a medical tragedy but a consequence of gross negligence and luxury spending, the sympathy dried up. The GoFundMe page Brittany tried to set up was quietly taken down after people started asking questions in the comments. The day they moved out of the house, I drove by. I know I shouldn't have. It was masochistic, but I needed to see it. I parked down the street in my car with its fixed bumper and watched. It wasn't a noble struggle, it was chaos. Matt was there, but he wasn't looking like the king of the airport anymore. He looked haggard, unshaven. He was shoving boxes into a U-Haul, screaming at my father, who was sitting on the porch staring at nothing. Brittany was crying by the car, ignoring the kids who were running around the lawn, unsupervised. There was no first-class lying here. There was just the brutal, ugly reality of consequences. I watched my mother carry out a box of kitchenware, the expensive Le Creuset pot she had insisted she needed 2 Christmases ago, the one I had paid for. She looked older, smaller. The linen suit was gone, replaced by sweatpants. I wanted to get out. Every instinct in my body screamed to run to them, to hand them my credit card, to fix it. I can't fix this, my brain whispered. I can stop the pain. But then I remembered the feeling of being invisible. I remembered being too expensive. If I stepped in now, I wouldn't be saving them. I would just be resetting the clock until the next disaster. I would be teaching them that no matter how badly they treated me, no matter how reckless they were, Rachel would always be the safety net. I put the car in drive, and I drove away. It has been 6 months since that day. My life looks very different now. I finally took that vacation, a real one. I went to Italy. I ate pasta in Rome and drank wine in Tuscany. I paid for it in cash. I didn't post it on social media to prove anything to anyone. I just enjoyed it. My family's still in the small apartment. Matt and Brittany had to downsize too. They sold their house and moved into a rental to pay off debts. We don't speak. Occasionally, I get a text from a burner number or an email from a new address. It's usually a mix of vitriol and begging. Dad needs surgery. We can't afford Christmas. How do you sleep at night? I sleep just fine. Because here is the truth that took me 29 years to learn. You cannot save people who are addicted to drowning. My family wasn't broke because of bad luck. They were broke because they believed they were entitled to a lifestyle they couldn't earn. And they believed they were entitled to my life to subsidize it. They viewed me as a resource, not a person. When I removed the resource, the system collapsed. That isn't my fault. That is gravity. I know there are people listening to this right now who are holding the weight of their families on their backs. You're the one paying the bills, solving the crises, mediating the fights. And you are terrified that if you stop, everything will fall apart. I am here to tell you, let it fall. It will be loud. It will be messy. They will call you every name in the book. They will call you selfish, cold, ungrateful. But you will be free. I am no longer the ATM. I am no longer the backup plan. I am Rachel. I am expensive. And my price has gone up. It now costs respect, honesty, and reciprocity to be in my life. And if you can't afford that, then You can't afford me. If this story resonated with you, if you felt that knot in your stomach because you know exactly what that just this once text looks like, do me a favor. Hit the like button. Share this with someone who needs permission to say no. And tell me in the comments, what is the first-class lie your family has told you while asking for a handout? Let's talk about it. Because we are breaking this cycle. One no at a time. Thanks for watching.